struggling with men, Donald Trump is struggling with women. What do these vice presidential candidates need to do to help narrow the gap for their respective sides?
Yeah, this gender gap has really been something to watch. It's more than I remember in any previous elections, and it's like a gender chasm. There's such a difference between who men are supporting and women are supporting. And as you said, Harris has women, Trump has men, including cutting into even some Democratic strongholds with younger men and men of color. And I think that's why Harris has Walz, or at least part of the reason why she selected him as her running mate, because he has to appeal to the white working class male voter. Think about, the Scranton Joe voters in the upper Midwest and the swing states who put Joe Biden over the top in 2020. She has to hold on to those voters. And that's why you see these advertisements of Walz wearing the flannel, being the Midwestern folksy dad, fixing his antique car. I'm not sure the numbers really bear out with men, though, that is working. On the flip side of that, with J.D. Vance, the numbers are very clear when it comes to women. He is far underwater with women, and that goes back to his rocky rollout with the childless cat lady comments and some other things that he said in the past about the role of women in society. That was viewed by female voters as condescending, and he really struggles there. I don't think, though, Errol, you're going to see him be apologetic for that. I think he's going to come out in that attack dog mode. That is his role in this election for Trump. He has done dozens of combative interviews. And Tim Walz also, he has his own intensity. His wild gestures are intense. Reportedly, he has quite the temper when challenged. So I think you're going to have two versions of masculinity that are really going to clash tonight intensely.
Very interesting, and we will be watching for that. Thank you, Holly. We'll talk a little bit later. And Jason Fechner, shortly after midnight Eastern time, nearly 50,000 port workers across the East and the Gulf Coast went on strike as if there wasn't enough going on in the world. The strike is going to stop the flow of a wide variety of goods and could actually impact the economy as we get closer to the election. Both candidates are trying to get union votes. Do you expect the candidates to speak directly to those union households tonight?
Well, Errol, great question. Kind of bad news, good news for Harris and the Democrats in particular. I'll start with the bad news. If that strike were to continue for a long time into the future, of course, it could have a seismic impact on the Biden administration and, of course, Harris and Walz's chance come November. The good news side of things, though, as you mentioned, it has just kind of gotten underway over the last day right now, and I don't think a lot of average Americans kind of realize the breadth and the enormity that this strike could potentially have on their pocketbooks and on the supply chain going forward. If it comes up in the course of the debate, I'll be really interested to hear what Governor Tim Walz has to say about it. Of course, Biden and Harris devout union support through the years, but if they were to get involved in this conflict and try to break up this impasse there, that could impact their messaging. Meanwhile, Trump and Vance have kind of made some inroads in that union support across the country, and so that'll be kind of fascinating to see how that plays out in the course of this strike going forward. It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out in the course of the debate throughout the course of the rest of the evening. And obviously, as I mentioned, depending on how long it goes, whether or not it'll impact what happens in November.
Yeah, and of course, Jason, we don't want to assume that either party has a lock on union votes. A lot of the unions have tended to sort of support the Democratic candidates, but that's by no means a monolith at this point.
No, not at all. And, Trump and Vance, I think, have been relatively proud of the inroads that they have made in that union support across the country so far. Obviously, it's still a Democratic stronghold, but they were able to get the Teamsters president to address the RNC. The Teamsters, of course, didn't endorse nationally. And while they didn't endorse Trump necessarily, that's still probably a win for them that the Teamsters this time around didn't endorse a Democratic candidate.
All right. Jason Fechner, Holly Gregory, Josh Robin, Tim Boyum, Taylor Popolars, and Cassie Semyon, thank you all for your time. We will talk again after the CBS vice presidential debate. That will be coming up in a little bit more than 10 seconds from now. Stay with us.
With just over a month to go until Election Day, the first and only meeting between the two men who hope to become Vice President of the United States, Democratic Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota and Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio.
Now, this is likely the final debate of this election